Hi everyone, welcome back to another Axopar how-to video. My name is Alex with Revolution Yacht Experience, and I'm here today to walk you through everything you need to know about your DC power and electrical system on a Axopar. Today we're going to be looking at a 28 Axopar. However, what we're saying today will transfer over to all the Axopar models. If there's differences worth noting, we'll talk about those today as well. Okay everyone, welcome aboard. As promised, DC electrical system deep dive. Here we go. So on this particular model vessel, we have the rotary switches that's located just behind the aft bench here. Your batteries and your switches are going to be located right underneath this seat area here. If you happen to have an aft cabin model, what you're going to have is your rotary switches will be around the corner a little bit, so you will need to dive into your aft cabin to get to them. And if you have a newer vessel released in the last couple of years, then right down here underneath the captain's seat, you're going to have some rocker switches, and we've shown you those on a lot of videos to date, but that's where you'll find that. So all DC electrical system really has the batteries at the heart of the system. So turning on the batteries and getting started there is absolutely the right place to start. So come with me, I'll turn the batteries on, and then we'll move through the system and show you everything else. Okay, so as promised, here's the switch panel where you're going to find your DC battery controls. So as you can see, these rotary switches are both turned to the on position here. What we have here is the start and the house or service bank in this particular case. If you have more than one engine, you'll have another switch, as you'll have one for port and one for starboard. So you want to go ahead and turn those on. I can cycle them now to show you what that looks like. So this here is the off position when they're vertical like this, and it will say off right there, and then you can switch them just like this. On the newer models, what you'll have is a rocker switch, and pressing that rocker switch will actually cause these to spin by themselves. So you will have a different switch panel on your boat depending on the model, but for the most part, they look very similar to this. Up here, we have all these pop-out fuses. So every single one of these is connected to a circuit on the boat, and they all have a name, and that relates to the piece of equipment that they serve. So if you find that something on your vessel isn't working for whatever reason, come and find this switch panel over here, and then see if there's like a fuse popped out or something like that. And if you do find it, you can usually push it back in and hopefully away you go. If it does keep popping out, it means you have some sort of an electrical issue. So circuits are designed to draw a specific amount of power, and if that amount of power is surpassed by what the carrying capacity of the circuit is set for, then these will pop out. So that's kind of good to know. I think we're going to move on to the next section. Next, we're going to look into the batteries, where they're located and how they're connected and how they work. So this is a bench model, as I mentioned, which means the batteries are going to be directly beneath me in these spaces here in this bench. And I'm going to open this up and we're going to look at them. If you happen to have an aft cabin, what you'll see is some panels on the sides. You'll have some fabric panels to your port and starboard, and they pop off. You can just grab them and give them a gentle pull, and they should just pull right out. And you'll have batteries located on either side. And in some boats, you'll actually have one in the middle as well, depending on the model. And that's usually very easy to know that you've got one, because if you look down there, there'll be some sort of a box. Usually it's like a teak box or something like that, made from wood. So you can open that up and get to your third battery, depending on how many engines you have. So I'm going to open these up off camera, and then we're going to jump in here and we're going to have a look at these batteries. So we've got some seats removed here, and we're going to have a look at this battery on the starboard side. We are on a vessel with a single engine, so that means that the starboard has the sole battery for the sole engine that's on board. So if you have a look at it down here, you'll see there it is. You have one battery for each engine on the Axopars. All the Axopars are the same that way. And taking a quick look here, there's really only the one fuse that you can see, and you see it's this guy right here. So this is what's called the clean power fuse, in order to give clean power directly from the battery to the engine's computer. So in a full dead engine scenario where you try to interact with it and it's just doing nothing at all, it could mean the computer doesn't have power. At that point, nothing's going to start up, nothing's going to turn on. You're right, you just have no power to the computer. If that's the case, then this fuse here is the one to check. This guy here is being charged by the battery charger and by the alternators. So if the engines are running, it will actually send current directly into this battery and charge it. And then that can have a knock-on charge that happens on the other batteries as well. This one here will actually also charge from the onboard battery charger, which hooks up to the shore power. So what that does is it takes alternating current from the dock, AC power, usually in the form of 120 volts, and and that'll convert that to 12 volts DC, and then that is what will charge that battery. Okay, so that's the two methods in which this battery charges. Okay, so now we're on the port side of the vessel, and this is where the service battery is located. The service battery, or a house battery it's sometimes called, is basically what runs all of the services on the boat. So almost everything that we were looking at on the dash there, that's all going to run off the service battery, or sometimes referred to as a house battery. So all lights and all tertiary equipment, with the exception of the bow thruster, which is a heavy load, and that actually has its own battery. So the windlass actually will run off another battery up there as well. So this service bank right here will connect to the switches that we were looking at right here. And those switch panels will have a direct connection back here. And that's where the charging will run through as well. You're going to have the fuses located on the pop-out breaker panel we looked at earlier, just down below. Right here where my hand is actually a panel. It is removable, and it isn't really a serviceable area for users. It's more of a technician kind of space. However, if it is removed and you want to have a look in there and see what's down there, you will find that in this particular boat there's a bow thruster fuse, or charging fuse at least, in there as well. So you will find some other stuff in here. So if you're having a bow thruster problem and you checked everything and things still aren't working, there is a replaceable fuse down here. But know that it can be a little bit dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, because there's lots of live circuits behind here. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a closer look actually down inside this space here. If we jump in and have a look, you'll see that there's what's called a main fuse. So we take a look at it and we can see that it's actually connected directly to the output of this battery, which means literally everything coming out of this battery is protected and goes through this fuse right here. It's very, very rare that it'll blow, but in the interest of just making sure we do a nice thorough walkthrough, I just want to let you know that this thing is in here, and if you have nothing working at all that is connected on your service battery, this could be a candidate as to a fuse that needs replacing. Okay, so the tour continues. It's taking us up here to the bow area, and there's a little bit going on here we've got to talk about. So we're going to have some charging in here. We're going to have some batteries down below. I think there might even be a couple of relays and fuses that we can talk about. The bow thrust is also under my feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open all this stuff up, and we're going to jump down in there and we're going to check it all out. Okay, so we have a hatch open just here, and the first thing I want to point out in this space is our battery charger. So this Whisper Power battery charger is a 3-bank battery charger. And welcome to Vancouver, or the seaplanes are. Can get a little noisy at times. So channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3 are the 3 banks, and they're going to be displayed on this panel right here. So channel 1 most of the time will be your service bank, and generally channel 2 and channel 3 will be your port and starboard start battery. The way that these chargers work is they will actually query the whole battery system, and they will start charging the lowest bank first if it's below a threshold. In normal scenarios, it'll actually go to bank 1, which is your service bank, and then it will charge that up to what they call full absorption, and then it'll move over to bank 2 and 3 together, and it'll charge those through bulk and absorption. And then when it's done with that, and it's all 3 batteries are up, it'll actually float charge all 3 of them together at the same level. So a lot of people have asked us actually why batteries aren't charging. They plug in and the service bank isn't coming up. It's like, well, it's a sequential charger, right? So it starts on one bank, charges that, looks at the other bank, charges that one, and then brings them all onto a float charge together. If you want to go have a look on your battery charger, you can actually come down here on this screen and you can press the info button and it'll actually give you the light up. And then if you go to next, it'll actually have a look at channel 1 specifically. Oops. And then channel 2 specifically. So this right now is floating both of them together at 13.4 volts. Okay, so I think that's a wrap on the battery charger. Let's keep moving through. Alrighty, so opening up this hatch here will reveal some more DC stuff. So I'm going to jump in there. We're going to switch cameras. So what we have right here is our switch for that bow heavy auxiliary battery. So this one here is, as you can see, running through this fuse. Once again, these big fuses don't blow very often, but they are here if you're ever curious. Okay, underneath this platform right here is a battery located here. So that's what this switch is actually controlling. If you do have a boat that has rocker switches inside the cabin underneath the helm seat, then like the other switches I mentioned, this one will actually move automatically as you rock the switch backwards and forwards. But if you have a boat that has manual switching, then you'll need to come up here and turn this on if it's off. A lot of people tend to leave them on, but totally your choice.
And if we move a little bit over here to the left, you can see that there's a couple of fuses that are coming out of this battery charger we just talked about. So you'll see that this is the two channels. If you have a 3-channel boat, i.e. it's got 2 engines, then it'll have 3 wires coming out, and each one of these will be the output fuse. So if this thing works and you're not getting power to your batteries, then these fuses would be the first thing to check. Okay, and these go directly back to the batteries. Okay, so as far as DC systems go, I think that's a wrap in here. This is more AC electrical stuff, and there's other videos we've made on those, so please check those out. All right, so we have the center forward deck hatch up now, and I want to talk about what's in here. There's not a lot, but we need to definitely check it out and talk about it because it is part of the DC system. So let's switch to bilge cam and get in there and get involved and see what we're looking at. As you can see here, we have the bow thruster. So this thing here connects to this tunnel, and that tunnel actually has the blade in it. So inside of here is the seawater. And then over to its left is the what's called an MLACR. So that stands for manually latching automatic charging relay. So the way this thing works is it will sense that charging is happening on another circuit, on another battery, much like the DVSR. This is really just the same thing. So the bow thruster battery will receive charge from the other batteries. It would link back to them via this thing. It will turn on and off all by itself, and it will link the batteries when they're in a state of charge, and it will unlink them when they are in a state of discharge, thus keeping the batteries full if they don't need to be discharging.
Okay, so we definitely cannot do a tour of the DC electrical system without coming into the forward head, which is where I'm located right now. The reason we need to come into here is because this is where mainly most of the smaller branch circuit stuff is located. So there's a breaker panel down here. It's a little bit different to the one we saw earlier near the rotary switch panel. The rotary switch panel has some larger pop-out fuses that are for like main branch lines that will go to smaller branch circuits again after that, and that's where this guy comes into play. It's going to be located on the port side, and there's a couple of things we can actually switch here on and off. For example, the water pump is controlled in here. Okay, so as you can see, the smaller branch circuit breakers are all lined up here, and down the bottom there's actually a few things that we can interact with. So you'll see that there's a 12-volt plug. There's actually the fresh water pump. So if you push that in, the fresh water pump will actually turn on, allowing us to run fresh water out of the taps. And then if we turn it off, the fresh water pump turns off. We highly recommend that if you are not using the pump and you are not on board, that you leave it in the off position, which is popped out and the white collar visible. And then to the left of that is the macerator button. This is a momentary button, and pressing it, it will release itself right away. So if you want to pump out your holding tank, which we have plenty of videos talking about that, and one very specifically about how to pump out your holding tank, so check those out. And if anything specifically is not working, this is a really great place to come. So let's just say your VHF is just not powering up. First thing you'll do is you'd actually come here and make sure this pop-out fuse isn't actually popped out. And if it is, push it back in and try the piece of equipment again. If it keeps popping out, like I mentioned earlier, this is something that you would want to call a technician in to come have a look at, because there will be an electrical problem to resolve. But hopefully that helps demystifying what's happening here on this panel. Okay guys, so that's it for the DC electrical system walkthrough. Thanks for sticking with us. I know it was a little bit more in-depth than what we usually do, a little bit more technical, but hopefully that is what you guys were looking for. So please leave a comment, let us know what you think. And if you're looking for more of this kind of stuff, we'll be happy to make more in-depth technical videos. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if this is the kind of stuff that you would like to see more of. We'll catch you on the next one.